You know what's weird?
Did you just... Damn it, I had one this time.
I'm just asking a question because I thought about it. I made a stupid reference where I made a voice when we were setting up the recording. Yeah. I think it's really strange how like cartoons that we grew up with, SpongeBob being one of them, name drop, has like turned into streetwear now. You see like really big brands, and I'm not gonna say them because I don't know, I'm not hip like the kids nowadays, but you'll see people wearing like really nice like SpongeBob shirts, like covering their chests and stuff. I don't know how these things became. Honestly, streetwear boggles my mind. First of all. What? What? Do you not even know what streetwear is?
No, I know what streetwear is.
It's like Supreme, stuff like that.
It's Supreme. Okay. It's a little more deep than that. But no, I mean
that's an example.
I figured it's because the people like us, we are beginning to be the majority of the workforce now. So
very true. How much do you think you had to pay to get SpongeBob?
Well, sometimes nothing, right? Let me tell you, that's how the internet works.
Whoa.
Sometimes you steal stuff. But I do.
You had something you said.
Yeah, I have bad news for you.
Oh, bad.
Yeah, I hope you can handle it.
I'll try.
You can? There's a cob of corn under your stairs outside.
A cob of corn under my stairs outside?
Yes.
Does it look old?
I don't know. I mean, cobs of corn, if you've ever gotten one, they're actually quite hard. I don't know if it's cooked.
So does it still have the shuck on it?
No.
Interesting.
He's not taking it too well.
Is it like still fully yellow?
Yeah, it's completely yellow.
I mean, it's probably.
I was just walking up, coming to record the podcast today, and there's just a cob of corn down there.
Does it look like someone put it there to hide it?
Maybe. There might be a corn thief. We're probably catching on to something.
Well, I'm thinking, someone may have found it out and about, a squirrel perhaps, and was like, you know what? I'm gonna save this bad boy for later. And so they hid it behind the stairs, hoping no one would see it. But you saw it, and now you've let it out on the podcast, and now people are going to go find it. It's one of those ARG games.
Oh, my God.
Where you say, hey, I put this here. Whoever finds it gets $10 million or something.
No, I just, next time you go downstairs.
Yeah, I'll pick it up and eat it.
Add that to the list. But you go downstairs, and I guess if you were coming back, you'd see it right away. But
now, in theory, if I boiled it, right? It would be edible.
Well, now it depends.
So it gets all the crap off.
You would need to make sure, like, you put some sort of temperature needle, put it inside of the cob, make sure that reaches like 160 degrees. Then you'd probably be fine.
Okay, I learned that from Bear Grylls. Old man versus wild action. He'd be like, if you take this water and you burn it and boil it well enough, then it should be drinkable.
What level ranger do you think he would be?
Oh, he's like at least. Well, I would say level 20, but he doesn't have any magic.
He's also.
Maybe it's a magical ability to drink your own piss. And so that's his spell.
It's a
he never boils his pee. So is that okay to just drink out of the bladder?
I've heard it's a natural moisturizer.
Really?
Yeah.
So you could like put it on yourself.
Build a Bear Grylls Ranger class where the abilities are. Let's stop.
You could always find your way.
Yeah. Also, you have a cameraman.
His favorite terrain is like everywhere, though.
Yeah. But he's fake, though. It's not real.
Oh, so he's like a homebrewed class.
Yeah. Most of those people, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have like huts elsewhere. I mean,
so Bear Grylls, most of the time he would stay out there. This is a known fact. Really? But there were a few times where he like hurt himself or was too like the company was like, hey, dude, if you stay out here, you will get frostbite and probably die. And so they took him to a hotel room or something. I think the one time they didn't do that though is he like broke his arm and they refused to take him out. Which doesn't make any sense. There was a guy I used to watch though. I liked him better. Survivor Man.
I remember him.
Yeah, he was out there by himself. He had to set up all the cameras by himself. Go out there, like do a shot. I can't imagine how annoying that is to go out there, set up a camera on a hill, walk all the way back, and then walk all the way back to get the shot of you walking to the hill.
Do you ever see? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bloggers that do that. Do you ever? Have you ever seen the duo? One of the, like the naturey dude doesn't wear shoes ever, and they go in the forest and crap. And there's the other dude who's kind of like the tactical army guy. I
used to love watching those shows.
Yeah, dude, Discovery Channel.
I want to watch. There was one. I don't know how good it was, but they would be one like super nature guy. Might have actually been Bear Grylls. I don't know, but someone famous, and they'd take a celebrity with them.
I do remember that.
I heard that was.
Would you do that? The things celebrities do for publicity.
Would I do that? Yes.
But we bring up an interesting point. These things, they take some skills to do.
Mm-hmm. Especially Bear Grylls. As we said, he would be a high level player. As you can see from the title down below.
I'm resisting the urge.
As you can see from our title down below, we are going to be discussing high-level Dungeons and Dragons or tabletop RPGs, I guess. Mainly, so we've never played or experienced Pathfinder 2e in high-level play, but...
They get like anime level crazy.
I have talked about it a little bit in my notes here, so we'll touch on it, but it's mainly going to be 5e, but I would say a lot of the stuff is also system agnostic, what I'm saying here today, too.
Yeah, though to Kenneth's point, some tabletop RPGs are generally lower level, like you're not the chosen one, you're some peon, and even high level shit is still like Merkborg might be like that kind of.
I would imagine so. Well, because some you don't really level. You get like a little bit stronger here and there, but you're not like getting like, D&D level of being able to open
casting
gates
wishes
to things.
and getting rid of things. Well, first of all,
he's Braxton.
God damn it, and he's Ryan.
We're the Dungeon Crawl. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for calling us.
Now we have a competition every time. Let's see. We did the intro this week, last week, and that this week and last week. Okay, our party.
I'm on the ball.
When you make your character,
you're
like, look at all these cool things. I'm gonna have like bim bam bomb, and I can blast things from my toenails, and it gets exciting. But then you start playing the game, and it's like, a week goes by, 2 weeks, and you're still level 1. You're like, well, dude, where is this going? It can take, depending on your GM, a long time to level up.
Well, you bring up a very interesting point, Braxton. I have a statistic here for you all from D&D Beyond, and I should preface this by saying D&D Beyond is not the end-all, be-all. People, Kenneth being one of them, doesn't have his. I mean, he has a character on there now, but he didn't for a while.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't use D&D Beyond because you either have to have the books. I mean, granted, you could just use the free account, but the statistics on there are still pretty interesting. There's 0% that play at level 0. And then the majority, there's third-party stuff.
Okay.
But it shouldn't be on D&D Beyond. Then you have levels 1 through 10. Actually, I'd say probably 1 through 6 have the most.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Between 11 and 9% of players on D&D
I'd say
Beyond.
like 8 is the very bottom of that probably.
Of those is actually
the bell curve.
So after that goes to then 7, 8, but anything past level 10, 4% and lower. Surprisingly, at the point of this Q&A, 16 through 19, 0% of players have a character between that level. There's 2% level 20, which is probably one shot. People just having fun.
Yeah, like, hey, let's just dick around and do it.
Yeah, but there's very few campaigns that make it past level 10. Very, very few. Our campaign, our home game, just hit level 12 the other day.
It was only 11 like a month ago, too. This is the fastest it ever leveled up.
But it's over 2.5 years. And we're all very lucky to be able to have played that long. Most games do not last that long. And another interesting thing to me is, I decided to check this out. D&D has one adventure, and I say adventure very loosely. It's called Dungeon of the Mad Mage. It's basically a very long dungeon that goes to level 20. Just one.
Is there a Tarrasque?
Actually, I'm not positive. I don't think so. I'm not sure. And then they have 4, again, adventures that go to level 15. Only like 2 or 3 of those are actual adventures that go to level 15. That's insane. Contrasting that to Pathfinder, their mentality seems very different. Is that all Pathfinder 2e Adventure Pass, and this is something they came out to talk about, I believe, must go from level 1 to 20.
Wait, what?
Yes. There's only 2 that have the exception, and the weird thing about this is they're called Abomination Volts and Fists of the Ruby Phoenix. I hesitate to say they're exceptions because they're 3 Adventure Pass each, 3 books, and they're 1 through 10, and then the other one, Fists of the Ruby Phoenix, is 10 through 20. So in theory, you could do this block and then that block, and still it's a full adventure, 1 through 20.
Official Adventure Pass, like that they release?
Yes, they've officially released.
Why is that? What do you think?
I think
like they don't release just quests.
They do, but their adventure pass are like the Curse of Strahd.
I guess that lies
in the Frost Maiden type of stuff. Like it's like full self-enclosed adventures, and they release them in different books. So 1 through 6, you can just pick up book 1, and that'll take you like through levels 1 through 3 or something.
Okay.
And then book 2 will continue that story. You don't have to, right? They're technically all self-contained stories, but if you play them from start to beginning, it tells a full story.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I think that lies in some of the philosophy that I heard from Alexis, our GM for Pathfinder.
Yeah.
She mentioned, I believe it was her, that Pathfinder, in terms of the level spread and how the power grows and how powerful your players feel, it's more even, which echoes what I mentioned in a previous episode, saying, you know, as you get to the higher levels, it feels less impactful compared to D&D, where it's like you get bam, 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 cool ability after another. But in Pathfinder, when you start, you feel more powerful right away. So it's more spread, whereas D&D's like, you all are kind of the same. You hit 3rd level, some at 1st level, you get your identity, and then when you get to like 11, that's the big bump.
Starts spreading out, yeah. I would love to see a stat like this at D&D Beyond for Pathfinder. There's probably some polls out there that have done that.
Yeah.
Because I only looked at the Pathfinder stuff after the D&D stuff because I was going, what does this say from a player or consumer perspective if the system that you are playing or you're consuming, you're utilizing, does not have a official way to go to level 20 besides Dungeon of the Mad Mage? What does that tell you as a consumer to probably not go there, right? That this system is not built for this. There's a lot of people that say that D&D is balanced for levels 1 through 10. Anything after that gets pretty crazy, which is probably fairly accurate. And so I decided, let me look at the Pathfinder one. I think, again, the Pathfinder mentality is very different in the fact that their philosophy is like, hey, we're going to put out stuff, and they made a fact to say levels 1 through 20, we're putting out every adventure path. I think it says something to your players to say, level 20 is just as fun and important as level 1. We got to get there. We got to keep it balanced and interesting.
Yeah, it seems like they've just designed the game around that more so. It does make me really sad for D&D thinking about that. I had no idea that there weren't many adventure paths that go to 20. No. And it makes sense, I think, when they're designing it, like, we don't know how to make a compelling story at this level because everybody's just fucking slinging wishes at left and right. Like, what do we do?
It can be tough. It can definitely be tough. Some go to like level 16 and 17, but they just don't reach the 20 mark.
Yeah, I'd say the max is like 14, between 12 and 16, but 14 is definitely where I feel like stopping, because there's a couple of YouTube channels that say it's adventuring party tiers, like 1 through 4, right? That's
a great segue, Braxton. Yes, there are 4 tiers.
Okay, didn't know I stepped on a landmine there.
That's actually my next talking point here.
Hell yeah.
Is there are 4 tiers. Tier 1 being levels 1 through 4, collectively known as the local heroes. That's where you're just, sticking around. If you've ever played Final Fantasy 14, or most JRPGs, you're very just kind of doing fetch quests, moving around the area, helping people fight goblins, helping Farmer Joe to clear out rats, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Very, very simple, everyday stuff for adventurers, right? And then you move to levels 5 through 10, which is tier 2. These are the heroes of the realm. Now your word's starting to spread. You're not just in this town. You now have moved to the capital, maybe. You're moved to this larger city, and you're helping everybody out.
5 to 10 is already heroes of the realm?
Well, realm is in, like, the kingdom you're in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Then you got levels 11 through 16, which is tier 3, masters of the realm. So now you're not just the heroes. You're like, everybody is going, my God, these guys are helping us out, praising them. Maybe the king is giving them jobs now, or you have a little bit of a keep.
You're abiding by this by the number.
But it's things are getting bigger here, more important. And then you have the final tier, levels 17 through 20. These are masters of the world. I almost wish this said masters of like the multiverse, because there's lots of planar travel that also happens.
Planeswalkers, basically, at this point.
Yeah, you're hopping around from planes, because there's no way. I guess there's a few ways, but it's tough to keep the story, and I'll talk about this later. Tough to keep the story impactful enough at this level, because there has to be. It's almost like what you referred to as power creep. You got to keep getting more intense as the tiers go on. I think you're not only your encounters, but also the story and everything. Each tier needs to feel very distinct, not obvious, but you need to collectively as a DM kind of think to yourself, how can I change for each tier? Because you're going to want to and you're going to need to. If you don't change your mentality for each tier, it's going to be very hard to keep D&D balanced and to keep your players engaged. And that's not only just for D&D, it's also for Pathfinder.
I want to get to the discussion on that tier and how you could make it enjoyable, but should we go through each of them, or is that on your talking
Sure,
points?
If you want to, yeah.
I'm really interested in it, so I'd love to learn about it.
About each tier specifically?
At least 1 through 4 I've done that. It's like goblins and shit.
Yeah, right? So levels 1 through 4. I think that's I'll also touch on this
later.
Level 1 through
4, rename it goblins and shit.
We can touch on it now too, is that levels 1 through 4, the way D&D is, and I'd say Pathfinder is similar. Pathfinder, it seems, stays pretty high lethality, as you play through the game.
Yeah.
But Pathfinder and D&D both start very high lethality, close to death in every step that you take. And then there's this curve. D&D seems to make it less harder for you to die. I mean, you get powerful healing spells, you get lots of reviving spells, stuff like that. So levels 1 through 4, very much, you got to be careful with what you're tossing at your players. You got to give them quests. I mean, I think it's easy for players to be interested, at least by level 2 or 3. Most people actually start, I'd say, probably around level 3 nowadays.
I would definitely do 3 for most groups. Pathfinder 1 is fine.
Yeah, Pathfinder 1's fine. But yeah, it's the Goblin quest, very small, localized stuff, clearing giant rats from sewers, fighting kobolds, all the everyday stereotypical. I mean, go back and watch our best or greatest early monsters podcast episode for that. Then you got levels 5 through 10, and this is where things, like I said, if you keep the mentality from levels 1 through 4 as a DM, you will make your players bored. I will think. Because if you keep with the same, hey, let's go do this small quest, do this little smaller quest. And I think the adventure paths for Pathfinder do a great job of showing this progression because I can't remember which one it is, but I read one back in the day that the first book is very much this. Small stuff around the village, you do a small dungeon, then as you do the next tier into the next book, you start seeing that there's an interconnectivity. It doesn't seem like it at first, but you start realizing there's pieces that are part of a bigger puzzle. I think around this stage, this tier is when you want to start kind of showing that.
Yeah.
But the stuff you did from levels 1 through 4, it might have seemed inconsequential. You're doing small goblin stuff. You're doing this little everyday kobold activity, helping orcs, whatever. There's a greater purpose to that. And maybe it's leading to a city. Now you have some friends with you, or it's those people that had this to put the rat in the sewer has some greater plot happening. And now you can actually integrate into that.
It's so weird hearing all of this, especially as somebody who's more so a player, or at least has been for most of what they've done.
And has played through this.
Yeah, because now it's like textbook. Just this is what I've experienced, and it's like revealing the curtains. It can be a little bit sad, but he's done great. It's all good.
But then you got the tier that we are in as in our home game currently, levels 11 through 16, the Masters of the Realm. And this is when the players slowly start getting, or maybe fast, depending on which classes you have, very powerful. It get very hard to kill them. I'd even say levels 5 through 10 get very hard to kill. But especially 11 through 16, there's so many different options that the players have at their disposal to keep people up. They got fun magical items and stuff like that, fun crazy abilities.
Imagine CR goes out the window here, especially.
Oh, 100%. I mean, CR is a whole episode in itself because I think it's so off base some of the times.
Do I wish it worked for the entire system? Yeah, but I think what it really does...
It's a good guidepost.
Exactly. I mean, like when you're starting it, it's useful when it needs to be, but you get a feel for stuff.
It's just important. It's one of those things that you want to not just grab a CR creature and toss it in. You want to make sure you read the stat block, go, oh, that could kill my level 1 party right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm grappling with this in the Dungeon Chronicles, our actual play podcast, which by the time of posting this will be tonight. So if you're listening to this the day it came out, tune in to twitch.tv/Dungeon Crawl Network at
around 7:30 CST.
Yeah, around 7:30 today in particular. So you guys are decking everything, or at least Salty's just DPS galore. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's important to, and we can touch on this a little later too, to adapt as a DM. If you see, as Braxton's saying, watching your players just obliterate combat that you thought was going to be tough, make sure for next session you've kind of taken, you say, okay, I see what they did there. Let's kind of add different things.
Yeah.
Then we have the final two. Actually, then we talk about story for this one. But story for this one is very much you've progressed in the world. You got people handing you big, important quests. And now you're really starting to see the greater scope at play. And that's why most campaigns end here is because you've been playing for probably a while at this point. People are either getting bored of their character or they're getting bored of the story and they're like, hey, DM, let's start wrapping up. Or it's been going on so long, people are leaving. People are moving away. Life happens. It's tough keeping a group together. So this is usually when games start ending, you find the big bad, you fight them, the realm was saved. But for those crazy DMs that make it this far, crazy parties, 17 to 20 Masters of the World, as we talked about before, this is when you're hopping from plane to plane, fighting devils, fighting maybe even gods. The story has to get pretty final episodes of anime stuff, right?
Yeah, so, okay, perfect, because I was just thinking about, like, man, I think of everything in terms of anime right now, and you just mentioned that, so I have to come in.
Okay.
I mean, there's power creep in anime. You think about Naruto, and
Sure.
try to keep light spoilers here. JoJo's also a good example, but Naruto is super powerful by the end of Shippuden. He's basically one of the gods of the world, kind of, or has the power of one. And then Boruto rolls around, and they just kind of do a power adjustment, and they introduce new stuff, kind of like rock, paper, scissors. And it feels cheap, but it's definitely a way to reduce the power level before, because it's hard to do that kind of slice of life stuff.
Especially it's a newer anime. They were like, let's find ways to not do the same thing, but B, we have a new audience now. We want to show to or work towards that.
Well, think about those of you at home. Look at your cat.
Okay.
Do you have a chonky cat? You look at them. You feed them a lot of food. They're happy. You're happy. Great, as long as they're not in pain. But you I want to make them exercise, and I'll give them a little less food. They're going to be upset. If you stop giving me my massive Rasengan fireball slinging wish spell casting and you reduce it a bit, I might be like an addict. I got my chocolate all the time. I want to eat it. Now it tastes real good. And you're like, no, I gotta slow that down. So I feel when you're at level 17 to 20 and you still want to have these like interesting character arcs going into RP, and people are like, I just want to do big spell stuff, and we're fighting the cosmos. I'm not gonna talk to Jerome about his toenail hurt.
Yeah, it's harder to have that person.
Can you?
I think you can, especially depending on your party, but I think a lot of that stuff has been probably taken care of at this point. You guys are close knit. You guys understand each other. Your personal backstories have probably been taken care of because you got one of the gods is coming to kill everybody. We got to do something.
Like level 16, 17, 20. We'll see about that.
It reminds me of, this is kind of for those of you who don't know anime, maybe for like the Marvel fans, this is like the big Thanos fight. This is when things get intense. Everyone's coming together, the big final fight.
This is why all these alternate universes exist, so that they can just cop out and say, oh yeah, they're just weaker in this universe.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the tiers. So as we said before, D&D, I know, sorry for you Pathfinder fans, but for the most part, we'll keep it system agnostic going forward. But as we said before, D&D is somewhat balanced, and most people would argue for levels 1 through 10.
Yeah. Sounds right.
How do DMs make the rest of these tiers as enjoyable as the first ones? Stay tuned. So the first one that I have here is answers. Players at this level will tend to have answers for almost anything that you toss at them as a DM.
You mean nerfs and bullying your players? That's what you mean.
That is not what I mean. You're going to be surprised. But they will have answers for almost anything, at least mechanically, that you bring up as a DM. And some, I would say, view this as negative. Do what Braxton would say. Start nerfing the players. Start cursing them with things.
Don't do that.
No, I'm saying
just joking.
I'm saying some would view this as a negative, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And would start nerfing the players or giving them cursed. I mean, cursed items can be fun. I don't necessarily mean they're a bad thing, but find ways to, you realize that this is a problem. Okay, I'm going to remove it from my game. I would say that's not how you should approach it, because there has to be a sense of progression for your players.
Yeah, buff before you nerf too.
Yeah, being able to see the invisible foe or view the shapeshifter with a true sight spell, huge. Find a way through the rest of the dungeon find a way to rest. In the dungeon with a magnificent mansion. That's huge as well. I think these are examples for players to feel important, feel like they're adding to the group, feel like they're helping everybody out.
Oh.
What?
That's what it is. Magnificent Mansion.
Oh, you're talking about in our game? It's not.
Damn it.
It's kind of.
It's probably just a random thing that you put in the game. I do a lot of that.
But these are examples for the players to feel important. I feel like they're being worthwhile to not only the story, but to the game and to the group, to the party. Yeah. So if you take these things away, as annoying as they may be as a DM, because it's very different from levels 1 through 4, or 5 through 10, whatever. This is what we call them, adapt, find other ways. And Braxton being a player in my game, I'm sure he loves getting to do these crazy fun abilities and helping out the group, doing like crazy swing attacks.
I just want to spin my sunblade into the vampire.
I know. So as a DM, I think you want to find a way to give the players the opportunity to use these fun abilities, toss that in their faces, and then also not nerf, but challenge these abilities. Put ways for them where they can't use the ability they've used in the last 10 encounters on this specific area. They have to use something else in their toolbox that they probably already have, but they haven't thought about it in a certain way.
Yeah. I think from my perspective, I'm the type of person that is kind of a wimp for these sorts of things. Whether it be Magic the Gathering or whatever, I just like doing my big things. Don't nobody touch my big things.
Right.
So as long as there's a logical reason for my ability to have been answered, not countered, but can have been countered. Like if it seems we're fighting a vampire lord who's been watching us for ages and they know we're doing, I'm like, okay, it makes sense that he's going to counterspell us when we start doing this somatic component that we do for this really powerful spell. It's like, no, you're not going to do that. And then different iterations of that can make me feel less attacked.
As a DM to metagame, to use that buzzword is make sure you read the statistics of the monster you're playing. Especially at this level, a lot of the statistics will play into how you should role play this creature. Vampires or high level mages will have high intelligence. Dragons are very smart creatures. Play into that. Fly, have the dragon fly away. They're not just going to sit there and take the damage. They don't want to die. They're about to die. They'll fly away and leave the party to fight another day. Or the vampire has been watching them. Or this mage is very smart. They understand how this party works. Someone's been scrying on them every so often, know who these people are, know what they do. Yeah. That's okay, I think.
And even if they're not smart, if they're adaptable at all or have a little bit of wisdom, or maybe even not, if they experience something painful, they'll probably try to defend against it, at least in the next round.
Yes. Or they see the cleric, they've knocked down 2 people and the cleric is running around healing everybody back up. That's now target 1. Take out that guy and then boom, your problem solved. So
elevate it to big magic levels, there you go.
Right.
Your enemy knows there's a wizard and a sorcerer there. I've got counterspell 1 through 8 and they're all for fireball.
And contrary to that, make sure DMs, you're not doing this for the early levels with like a goblin that knows that the cleric is the bad guy to kill because he's healing everybody. Goblins probably won't know what they're doing. So
monsters know what they're doing, Ryan. Remember,
that's a great book.
It is.
And article website. So definitely go check that out. Shout out. But the next thing I have, and DMs, I apologize, but time running a game this level takes a lot more effort, and you have to invest a lot more time than at the earlier tiers. So for you lazy dungeon masters, it could be a little tough here. Now that is true. You could just run a game, but if you want to keep it as engaging as the previous and enjoyable tiers, then you got to put in the time, which means, for me at the very least, homebrewed creatures, action-oriented, remembering the lair actions, anything to action economy. You can watch our combat episode for that, and creating just more challenging encounters and not just one straight out of the book or just tossing in 3 creatures here. I think if you put in super challenging encounters too, you'll often be surprised at the resiliency of your players. Yeah. They're very smart and sophisticated, and you also realize, wow, the characters are a lot more powerful than I expected. They have crazy abilities. They have spells you didn't even think about the time that you made this encounter.
Stakes are high too if they really care about the character, so they're going to try to weasel their ways
so in and out of that. Try to survive.
Which is a good thing to learn from if you see your players fighting for their life that much. Like, my monsters should be like that too if they value something that much.
True. So ways that you can kind of make these challenging encounters are to utilize kind of like waves where you have different encounters leading up to a big fight. And we talked about this in our combat episode too. So characters and players can't just go release all their crazy abilities on one single boss. Because that won't be, it could be kind of fun for your players just to quickly eradicate something, but I think even players would like a more satisfying fight so if you're going to do that, only have one encounter in your crazy boss fight. That boss better be super powerful, like insanely so. So having these few waves every so often leading up to big fights can be huge. And I think I already touched on that about intelligence creatures. But I think also creating things that aren't just mechanically difficult, but also difficult psychologically, I guess. You don't want to, mentally screw with your players.
Yeah, session 0. Always refer back to it.
But I mean more so along the lines of not just running a straight combat fight. Like there's other things going on.
Yeah.
Like there's a ritual that they're trying to stop from happening, and so the party has to deal with the necromancer to cast this ritual, but also all the skeletons that are charging at them. Just a lot of different options, or the NPC is being threatened, and they got to protect the NPC, but also kill this guy. It's over there. A lot of different things you can be doing.
I think my one single thing that I would advise to people at higher levels that I've now experienced is if you're theater of the mind, it can be tough for you. But terrain, dude. I am telling you, just being unable to hit something, see something, or blast everything, or having to actually think about your movement, line of sight, using that is, I think, a massive, massive way to make this more interesting. I mean, just think about a lot of first-person shooters. People die in like 2 seconds. How do they fix that? Imagine those people dying in 2 seconds are just casting fireballs at each other. How do they nerf it? How do they fix it? Cover, buildings, sight lines. You don't have to make it insanely micromanaging, but for me as a player, it's really like made me have to use my noggin. I mean, Fire Emblem, like it too. So yeah, terrain.
Tarrasques.
No, don't do that.
But all that stuff we mentioned takes time, unfortunately. And if any of you have ever picked up, I mean, I'd say Pathfinder is unfortunately like this as well. If you pick up an adventure path, an adventure module, it's very, very difficult to run it out of the box and keep it super engaging, not only for yourself, because you might not know what's happening, or you might miss something and kind of berate yourself for that. Yeah. But also for your players. Some of them aren't necessarily completely balanced well. So there's a lot of homebrew stuff that you might have to do. Curse of Strahd is notorious with having people make their own homebrewed, encounters that add on to it, or changing Ravenloft stuff. Yeah, it's super. You go to DM's Guild, type in whatever adventure you're thinking about running, you'll see about 100 different options come up.
Makes sense.
People love homebrewing stuff. They also have guides to help you figure out what you're running. So yeah, time unfortunately takes some effort. The next little bullet I have here is called "Death Isn't Real." Because as we touched on, once you hit a certain level in D&D, I'd say probably Pathfinder is somewhat similar, but definitely haven't reached that level, so it's tough to tell. It becomes increasingly less lethal. It starts off very much level 1, level 2, very squishy, very one poor roll from a character getting destroyed. At around, I'd say 5 or 6, you get a little more hardy, a little more, you got some revive spells at that point, and it becomes very difficult after that to do any sort of full-on damage to your player's physical sheet, I guess.
Yeah, well, what I would say too is there's a lot of monsters, and we were chatting about this before, that don't die when you kill them. The things die when they are killed, as Emiya would say from the Faith series.
Nice.
Not in D&D. Sometimes.
Not all the time. Yeah, some of the powerful creatures, vampires, liches, rakshasas.
I mean, there's definitely ways to just double the damage against the player and make them die outright.
Sure, and I don't mark on any DM that is. I know this is a hot button topic out there, but DMs that attack a down player, if that creature would do that, or that player has increasingly pissed off that NPC, not the DM, not you, but the NPC, then sure, you make that attack, and then it also increases the stakes for the players. So I'm like, we gotta do something now to this guy, or
just like the nature of the world. I mean, if you can justify something,
sure,
there you go. Unless in sessions you're just like, hey, look, this is a casual game. I'm not gonna attack down people. That's a rule.
I'd say, especially at this level, this tier, probably more inclined to do something like that for my type of DM style.
Yeah.
But so take what we were just kind of talking about and the lethality of levels 1 through 4. Once you hit those higher levels of tier, you have to amplify what you're putting at your players by like 9 or 10. It has to get pretty intense for them to care about what's, these kind. Otherwise, it's probably, I cast fireballs or fireball and kill this. Because once the players get fireball, you have to now be aware. If I just toss in group enemies at them, boom, encounter over. And that's okay in some instances. Like I said, it makes the player feel like they're doing something powerful and fun. But if you do this every time, it won't be very fun.
Yeah, I'm interested. Oh, don't answer my mass suggestion just yet. Actually, you had answers to it. They couldn't understand me, so they had to make an intelligence save to do it.
Yeah, they might understand.
And they were drow, so they had advantage on the save, and it still worked. So, if there's going to be an answer to it, it is that. So if I can succeed in it, that's great. Good job. Right. Good job, me. Go me.
And don't get me wrong, everything I've been talking about here, I don't want to aim to kill the players. You want to make sure everyone's having fun.
Sure.
So what could you do? What are some options? Those ways we talked about before could help because it would reduce the resources. The cleric has to decide, am I going to save this spell slot for Revivify, or am I going to try to kill this creature now?
Spell slot managing is a big thing, especially as a warlock right now. It's
so if you go into a fight with full spell slots, someone goes down, someone like dies for real, revivify. Problem solved. I'm assuming at this level you probably have some diamonds.
Yeah.
I think using Matthew Mercer's reviving rules is just, I think you should be doing it, period.
It's been fun the time that we've used them.
Yes. But I think keeping it and definitely utilizing it for this tier and tiers above, 3 and 4, will keep this sense of lethality in there. Because if you die, even if you get revived, it's not a guarantee you're coming back. So and you're being able to talk to your player and say, hey, do you want to come back? Is it willing to return? It adds some more.
I'm chilling.
It adds some more RP. It keeps things interesting. The players have to do some RP stuff. It's very fun, and it gets the increasingly more times you die, it gets harder to come back.
Yeah. I do have a question for you though.
Yeah, go for it.
These super high levels, you can have a story that's snowballed into it and it has ingrained the care and interest into your players and yourself when you're writing it, because it's important that you're enjoying the story that you're writing. But at level 20, once a group finishes the big thing, are you going to lose interest, or do you think there's a way for you to write in like all the player stuff is finished and they all still want to keep going? You're like, yeah, we can still keep going. It makes sense to not end it just yet. But I mean,
so to not wrap up the campaign when everything's done, but it feels like everything should be done,
I mean, I guess kind of remove the whether it should end or not right now and just going, we want to play at this level.
Everyone's still having fun.
We want to play at this level and use these abilities instead of going back to level 1.
Like you could.
Would you have fun writing in that medium?
I think I would. I think the problem from a writer's perspective, it could be a little difficult to say, okay, well, my story is over. Do I write like a short story, or should I just continue writing crazy stuff at this high level? I think
anime does it, but
I think being honest with your players and being like, hey, we could do a little bit, but at some point, we might run out of shit to fight.
Yeah, no, that's really true. And I think if you,
there are, so not to cut you off, but there are third-party materials that go to level like 25. I call it epic level campaigns, and by the way, that book that does that, superb. I highly recommend you guys check it out. I can't remember while you talk.
What I will say about high level is it's really just a proportional increase from level 1 to 20. I mean, you're doing bigger, more bombastic spells and the venues are more crazy.
Yeah.
But if you just divide the numbers and put them down to the least common denominator and you simplify all the damage down, it's really proportionally the same thing. Guy cast spell does half damage to you. It's just, a firebolt in your face and you go from 5 health to 2 health versus you get a sun launched at your 1000 HP and you go to 500. I mean, proportionately, it's technically the same stuff.
Right.
It's just bloated numbers. So it doesn't have to be this insanely otherworldly concept. I think you still could write homely experiences in it, though.
It could be difficult. I think it could be. It could be difficult from going from.
Of course, you've got that ready.
Well, this is it's in here is why I'm pulling it up.
Yeah.
I think it could be difficult going from that world-ending stuff to homely. So I think it has to be kind of almost like seasons in a show. Like the players know this season's over. The next season we're going to be focused on a very different type of content. Again, being very honest with your players.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason these fantastical places are so interesting, kind of contradicting what I just said a little bit, jumping straight from doing an adventure to like Avernus or something to go kill Tiamat and doing that, and players are whatever level, or maybe you went really deep into it. Just jumping straight to, okay, you guys are level 20. The only place I can go to give you relevant monsters is straight to like the middle of the abyss.
Right.
And to some extent, there's a lot of payoff in doing a campaign from a lower level and building up to be able to go to the abyss. And it might feel, I guess, a bit cheap to just hop from one insane place to the next. So, I mean, you can definitely do it, but part of a campaign is the fun of like finally getting to go to that crazy place.
True.
So,
true.
Food for thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely an option. You could just do some plane hopping stuff, and
yeah,
you could be this.
I mean, how are superhero stories doing it? They're all insanely powerful.
Lots of nerfs.
I guess, yeah. I didn't know Superman was powered by the sun.
Yeah.
By the difference in the sun.
Yeah, so if he goes back to his home world, which he has, he's a normal dude.
Isn't that weird? So he just came here once. He's like, oh, I'm strong.
Oh,
and I have laser eyes.
Teamir's a baby, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because his homeworld got destroyed.
It happens.
But so I did find the book. It's called Epic Characters by Mark.
Is there a ghost?
Mark Altfudish.
Is there a ghost right here?
What?
There's a face. Our camera sees a face.
Oh, that's weird.
It's the viewers. It's you.
But just type in Epic Characters DM's Guild. You'll find it. It's fantastic. The reason I even know about it is because they have made other stuff. And I was wrong. It actually takes you from 20th to 30th level.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I gotta what's the quip at the beginning?
They add 66 pages. Contains progression from 20th to 30th level for all character options found in the player's handbook. So they've expanded. So your class will have extra abilities that they've added after the fact.
All right, so I don't want to do it because Warlock doesn't have Hexblade. Got it.
No, it's they got Xanathars in here.
Oh hell yeah!
They have players handbook, DM's Guild, Sword Coast. I mean, they got it all. It's all. They have everything that's gone.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It is, and they're selling it for $10. It's got great reviews. It's fantastic. They even have the Blood Hunter, which is not even an official class, just Matthew Mercer made it. They also have that in here. The Gunslinger as well. They have a bunch of stuff, but like I said, the reason I know about this is they've made setting books called Olrant's Guide to Blank Planes. They have different planes. They have the Shadowfell book, which is phenomenal. An Acheron book, which is also phenomenal. I think it's the only two they have currently. Yeah. It's amazing books. So I highly recommend you guys.
I chose that name arbitrarily, by the way, in the live play.
But both of those books also include more very high epic level creatures for these tiers. I also would recommend you guys check out another third-party book called like Mythic Encounters, I believe I'm not gonna look it up, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, which takes the Theros idea and takes epic crazy creatures and adds mythic options to them. It's very fun, very cool.
There's something as well with a lot of these monsters that are high level. You'll notice that legendary actions are a big way that people buff them, and that's to address a few things: action economy and numbers. So if you look at it, every legendary action that monster can do is as if that was another monster in the initiative order immediately after each of your players. And however many they have. So that's how you can look at it.
So your players don't get 5 rounds of attack on one guy and he just gets to go off once. And then by the time his turn rolls back around, he's already dead.
Yeah. So for your players, after you roll an initiative so that you don't roll your eyes at the legendary action, that's why. And for those of you that can't rely on CR, I think that's probably a good way to imagine it. If you've got 2 really high level monsters and they both have like 3 legendary actions in your party of 4, might be a bit overwhelming, but
unless the legendary actions, which
aren't crazy,
yeah, because some are like use it to do a cantrip. The other
imagine
one,
a little peon that just does a cantrip once every second.
The other one, specifically for the, I'm a little bit behind the curtain for some vampires. People that fight vampires a lot, because this is something that happened very recently. Legendary actions are sometimes very simple. And the reason for this is because of that. You don't want to just obliterate your players by just giving them even more crazy attacks. So use them smartly. A lot of legendary actions and creatures will have an ability to move their full movement without provoking opportunity attacks in some way, going invisible or teleporting somewhere. And I think you could very easily pigeonhole yourself into just using the attack legendary action, which most of them have at least 1 or 2 of them. But A, that's not very interesting, and B, it could just obliterate your party if you just keep tossing those out there.
True.
So use it smartly by maybe 1 legend action. He's going to move across the battlefield to over here because he's preparing a spell that he wants to cast the next turn that he's up or something. So he doesn't have to waste his movement. Yeah. So use these things smartly. Don't just go supernova and attacking people every turn, which you could do, I guess.
Good.
And the last, one of the last ones I have before getting to a topic that's going to be sad, is be ready to improvise, adapt, change. I think I'm one of the DMs, and I think this should be more accepted everywhere, to change things on the fly, to make things more difficult or less so, not for every encounter, but I mean, especially for homebrew encounters, because you might make one accidentally way too hard, or B, to make it more enjoyable for the players. Yeah. If this boss fight has been brought up for years and everyone's super excited, it's a really big important moment, maybe it's the big bad of your campaign and everyone's getting ready to fight it, and you realize it's shit, it's underpowered. It's gonna die in like a second, and this has been built up, and everyone's, everyone ordered food and coming to have a happy, fun time, and then it's gonna be over. I think it's more than okay to change that stuff on the fly, keep it going. Don't do it, don't go from one end of the spectrum, obviously, way to the other side. Keep it interesting, keep it fun. As if everyone around the table is having fun, and this is another hot button topic to change things on the fly. But if your players are having fun, you're having fun, that's all that matters.
As a player, for me, I think what is acceptable is for your team to be very decisive when they do it, rather than feeling that the encounter isn't that great and they're constantly just like letting you do damage to them, and then they just reset the HP every time, and they're like, I'll just add another 15 HP. You hit them how much? And then they don't alter the HP. Like, that kind of stuff is really stupid and cheap. Make a decisive decision where you're like, I'm going to up it by a flat amount at the beginning of this and keep it right there and stick to it. Stick to your guns, make a big decision.
And contrary to that, don't be afraid to, if the guy has, 1 HP or, something along those lines, and he either in his mind, like you've thought into this character's mind, is going to be running away, not going to do anything consequential, very small stuff. Just if you see they're that close to death, just kill him off. If it's just going to go around the initiative another time and someone else is going to kill him, he's not going to do any more damage to kill anybody else. He's not going to make it stressful. It's just going to be annoying for everyone to try to hit this creature. It could be bothersome.
Yeah, depends on what goes on. Don't let your DM bloodlust for killing your players and act like, if I have an extra turn, I can kill them. If it makes sense thematically and it would be satisfying, maybe go that extra round. But definitely take his advice.
The player has never had a final blow and doesn't have the how do you want to do this moment. Give it to them there. Let them have that fun.
Bastard.
What, man?
I've in all the sessions I played that day, I had missed some hits. There was 2 bosses that we went up against. Oh, I'm so bad at rolling attacks,
super
man.
Close.
Super close.
So the final thing I want to talk about for this, and I said
we're dancing around a little bit.
I said this was gonna be sad. End it when it's right. It's so easy, especially with American TV shows, to keep things going way past the expiration day, way past when it should have ended, when no one's having fun anymore. People are ready to be done. Maybe they are still having fun, but you probably should have ended 4 or 5 months ago.
You've got no excuse, specifically now, because Oda Sensei, the mangaka, the manga artist, and the writer for One Piece, has announced that the story has entered its final stages for the manga. So now that whenever that ends,
what does that mean? It still could be a lot for him.
Well, I mean, about 4 or 5 years ago, he said it has about 4 or 5 years left, and we're now getting there as time moves along.
Good guy.
I mean, it's probably the final arc or something like that.
Yeah, so know when it's okay to tie things up. Let it end.
Yeah.
And especially if people are leaving and you want to end it on a high note. I mean, I don't mean one. I mean if people are starting to move away,
we're right there.
And you know the campaign is going to be falling apart. I'm speaking from experience here. Yeah. I have had a campaign fall apart, and it's so sad leaving that stuff. Not even just for me as a writer, storyteller, but just as the players be like, man, I wish we could have continued that. I was interested
the funny
to see
thing
where
is we kind of have, at least for me.
That's true, because we're now in the same world, and things are that's me as the DM finally getting to see what
me as Braxton playing the same Warlock characters for many years. And then J-Dog in our Discord also has gone through a lot of campaigns, like 2 of his campaigns, one he DM'd, one he was a player.
It's hard, man.
Close out. It is very tough.
So it's. I think you need to start thinking of ways. Once you start reaching these higher tiers, start thinking of ways to start tying things up, making sure your players are happy with the ending. I think always doing the final epilogue moment with your players and have them write up what they want their players, assuming they survive.
Montage, the ending song plays, everybody's crying.
Have them write up what they plan to do for the future, what their epilogue looks like. And I will let you guys know when I do it, because I have not ended a campaign ever. On my own terms.
It will be the one that we've been doing for.
Yes, we're getting there.
We're getting there.
We're like I said, we're level 12, so I've been thinking about it. I'm doing what I wrote here. I'm not being a hypocrite. I've thought about ways that we can kind of start tying things up. And of course, there's unfinished business out there in the world. There's things that the party wasn't that interested in, and I think that's okay. Don't force these big stories that you want to tell on your players. Let them go their own route. They want to focus on this story. then boom, make that more important than the others.
Something I love that you did, and though I want to do this quest, is if you're making your world filled lived in, there's people that are around the power level that your characters are. Let them pass off one of their big ass quests on those guys. Ryan literally just took one off our hands, and I was like, shit, it might not go great, it might not go bad, but the person, the NPC, does these things. He fixes world ending stuff. I was like, there's this hell portal that opened up because of our rogue was making a deal, and I was just like, you want to take care? He's like, yeah, I'll look into it. I was like, that's a weight off my shoulders, friend.
I mean, we can definitely touch on how to make. I don't know if we have done this yet. We have to check our 2 years of archives to look at. But like how to make things more immersive. One of those things is definitely having other adventuring parties, other powerful entities out there in the world that are not just bad people. They aren't just bad people. But also some good dudes to help your party out that you can meet and be friends with.
There's a post I retweeted on Twitter.
That's what made me think.
That's a pretty good one, which transitions me great. If you want to join, if we're okay, transition.
Go for it.
If you want to join in on the discussion for any of this stuff, follow us on Twitter at Dungeon Crawl Pod, Twitter and Instagram. Instagram we mostly use for just like impromptu photos and whatnot. It's hard managing 2 social media accounts.
True.
I'm a social media boomer.
Yeah, I just posted some on Instagram, so head over there and like it. We had some likes already, baby.
Wow. Yeah, go check it out. We've talked about our Discord. If you've just gone through, probably haven't, one of these big, well, maybe you did, reason of it. Campaign ending things. You're looking for a new group. The Discord's a great place. We've got many people looking to start online campaigns if you're okay with that.
Or just some one-shots.
Or just some one-shots. They happen all the time in various different settings and systems.
God knows, if you want to run your own game.
Get on in here. Hang out for a little bit. We don't have any like official Discord timers or anything, but we'll get to know you, chat with you.
There are some rules. Just follow those rules, you crazy bastards.
Yeah, really cool place. Links in the description as well. Okay, no, that's not how you say it, though. The email.
The email, yeah.
thedungeoncrawlpod@gmail.com if you like sending us business inquiry.
Or I was to say, if you're out there listening to this and you got a sponsorship opportunity, hit us up, baby.
It'd be fun to do it. We're getting some more views. It's been a lot of fun, a lot more comments and whatnot. It's just
all you lovely people.
The engagement's really fun, and that's all you really look for when you're playing tabletop RPGs. A lot of the time, it's just engagement with other people, back and forth and stuff like that.
That's why you sit around the table with people.
Yeah. And if you want to help us do more of this stuff, we finally figured out how to get our fancy new light that we purchased with some of the money that Patreon has been graciously donating to us. If you feel like supporting us through monetary value in particular, Patreon, we do have a few tiers from like $1 to $25, just if you're feeling like doing it.
Feeling generous.
And in particular, the Dungeon Crawler tier and above, you can, get some shout outs if you want. But right now, these are exclusive to Squid, who's rolling up on the screen.
I know, what a guy.
He is what a guy. He's been going through some stuff, but I enjoy the man.
Yeah, I appreciate him still giving us some money even though he's going through some stuff. That's very kind.
And everybody else on the Patreon as well, thank you so much. If you don't have the spare change to toss our way, that's absolutely fine. Just throw a like, subscribe, whatever the hell else.
Tell your friends.
Touch the video.
Tell your parents.
Just touch it. Just give it a little touch in the form of a like button. That's
yes.
Or just throw a comment.
Don't hit that dislike button. Actually, to be fair, dislikes also help. Also help out the channel. So
So that's my spiel.
So last thing that we're gonna close on talking about the high level content. So a few weeks ago, and this is gonna seem completely off base, but I promise it's connected. A few weeks ago, my girlfriend and I, my partner and I, went to a museum date night. It was super fun. Lots of cool museums out there. I feel like we talked about this last time. But it's super fun, super engaging. But there was one specific location. It was like it's like a science museum and like natural history museum. And they have, the bones of creatures and T-Rexes.
High level monsters.
Actually, T-Rex is pretty. It's like a CR7 or something. It's not too high. But they had, some old monsters and stuff. And there's like a kid area you can kind of walk through. And it was very engaging, very cool. There's one part where you're like climbing down into like like the stomach of a creature. And I found out as I took a step back and from my research in the monster manual, it was a gigantic Tarrasque. We're in the body of a Tarrasque. I mean, obviously it wasn't real when you're climbing through all this stuff. Yeah. It was super fun and super cool. But it's kind of fun to see what's inside of the Tarrasques and what they eat. And there's actually some cool adventures that take place in the bodies of Tarrasques. So go check this out. But inside this Tarrasque, and I was appalled, this was a kids museum. There were bodies, creatures that have been eaten. Obviously it was old, so there were skeletons and stuff. But I found bones of some adventuring parties that have been in there.
Okay.
And so I was like, you know what? They're not going to use this stuff, right? And so I start going through their stuff, and my girlfriend's in the other, corner going, no, that's very disrespectful. I'm going through their stuff and pulling things out, and lo and behold, this had to be in the last 2 years. But they had a laptop, right?
In their where? In their pocket?
No, in their pouch. Like they had a bag of holding in there, and I pulled it, did it.
You were thinking, okay.
Gotcha. And let them all go out. And I found that their laptop, very cute. It had, like anime stickers and stuff all over. It's like, oh, cool. And I logged in, no password. Note to you guys, have to use a password. But there's nothing on their laptop. But the last screen they had up was an Apple Podcast thing.
Oh, yeah.
That said the dungeon crawl. And they had actually clicked 5 stars on our.
Damn.
I know. I was real sad I didn't get to meet them before they died. For being dead at least less than 2 years, it's pretty impressive that they were that decayed.
That's a good battery on that laptop.
Yeah, right?
Damn.
It wasn't
even idling.
And the acid from the Tarrasque's stomach also didn't hurt it. So
maybe it filtered into the acid in the battery and charged it.
Like lithium or something? I don't know how that works. Yeah, so go to Apple Podcasts, do what this adventurer did, just try not to die in a Tarrasque this time. Maybe the DM will hopefully the DM of your game will use some of our things and not use a Tarrasque, because Tarrasques are not very fun.
Man, I wish I had the dungeon crawls advice and got a really high level adventuring party.
Yeah, rated us 5 stars.
Somebody's gonna look at the iTunes, which I hope you do.
We should make
do it. What?
No, you say your thing first.
Yeah,
I'll say my thing.
They're gonna see like where are all these likes that we're not, that Ryan's telling us about.
They're there, I promise.
You go post them.
But we should make a video. I think this would be super good.
You almost lost it.
I think this would be super good clickbait too. Why Tarrasque is the worst monster in D&D.
That's definitely been done, but yeah.
It has some some.
Isn't the only way to kill it wish spell?
I mean, there's ways you can. You can't hit it with a lot of stuff. That's for sure.
It's kind of lame. But hey,
you can't hit it with Eldritch Blast. So once you run out of spell slots, sorry.
That's not right.
I know. I'm sorry.
I don't know. What I always think about with these monsters is like, how did they evolve to be like? What environment did they grow up in to do that?
That's a very good point.
The etymology of like monsters and their environments and whatnot. I'm interested in making a world where it makes sense, like these apex monsters, like Monster Hunter.
Now that I'm thinking about it, Wizards of the Coast's response to these higher levels of tier is to nerf the party by using certain creatures. Beholders have anti-magic cones, so they can't use their abilities.
Yeah.
Tarrasque, you can't hit them with like spell attack rolls.
Yeah. It's the dumb way of nerfing.
Rakshasas can't be hurt with level like 5 spells or below.
You just revert them to classless, abilityless creatures that can't do anything.
But I understand, right? They're trying to make these things powerful, and I guess they ran out of options. But tune in next week if you want to learn about good game design.
WotC also made blue in Magic, so makes sense. I don't know. Anyway, he's Ryan. Got it.
He's Braxton.
Hey, we're the Dungeon Crawl. Thanks for crawling with us. Got a killer episode.
Tune in to Dungeon Chronicles tonight.
Yeah, tonight. If you've seen this now.
If you missed it, then you can catch it either on Patreon, the whole session, or you can catch it on Thursday on our YouTube channel.
Cut, recorded, beautifully mastered audio.
Yeah. And
Patreon.
We'll be back here next week for a banging episode. Promise.
Got him.
See you.